Hi, Mark Donovan here, and today I'm going to be going over the topic of the FAA's plans to modernize the Part 141 flight training program. So stay tuned. Okay, let's get into this. The FAA's goals for modernizing the FAA Part 1 flight training program. So yesterday, I participated on a call with the National Flight Training Alliance organization. It was the initial meeting, and there was about 500 people on that call. And the objective of that meeting was to basically go over the game plan for putting together the industry's comments, both oral and written comments, and proposed ideas for modernizing the Part 141 flight training program. And so in light of today's pilot shortage and the significant increase we've seen in flight training over the past few years, I'm fully supportive of this. I'd like to see a lot more Part 61 programs become Part 141 flight training programs. And we'll get into reasons why that hasn't happened, but hopefully with the changes that will come about through this effort and through future FAA regulations on Part 141, a lot more flight schools will become Part 141 flight schools. So some provisions in the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2024 that passed last year include strengthening aviation safety, bolstering the aviation workforce, and investing in infrastructure and innovation. And so a key portion of that legislation involves supporting the recruitment and development of future aircraft pilots through education, outreach, and recruitment. And thus, the FAA's reason and objective here to modernize the Part 141 flight training regulations. So this meeting that we had yesterday was just the first of many that are going to happen throughout the year 2025. Attached or shown here is the schedule overview that I was able to get from the slide deck that was presented yesterday. We'll go over a little bit more in detail about these various milestone meeting dates later on. So these meetings are meant to provide a forum for the aviation community to discuss, prioritize, and make recommendations to the FAA concerning the modernization of Part 141 flight training through, again, written proposals, comments, and oral discussion. The goal of the NFTA is to present to the FAA its proposed written and oral comments on how to modernize Part 141 flight training by late 2025, basically the end of the year. The FAA will then formulate new regulations based on this industry input that ultimately will improve pilot training safety and enhance Part 141 flight training programs. So the FAA's commitment to safety. The FAA finds the best foundation of quality ground and flight training is through certified pilot schools, and thus it's committed to maintaining the safest air transportation system in the world by ensuring that our flight training schools are producing the most skilled pilots in the world. And as you can see in this NFTA chart that was presented yesterday, you can see the number of fatal accidents that have happened over the past 10 years between 2013 and 2023. And a very high percentage of it was in the general aviation personal use aircraft. Second highest was with instructors. So the FAA's goal here is to provide safer skies through improved flight training methods. So it's important to appreciate that current Part 141 pilot school training regulations have foundational ties to the early years of pilot training and elements directly linked to the civil air regulations. The last major revision was in 1997. And basically, there's been a lot of technology changes since 1997 that the existing Part 140 regulations don't really allow flight schools to take advantage of. So consequently, these regs don't properly address or support the modern technologies I was just saying that we have today to our disposal, such as flight simulators, electronic flight bags, and AI, virtual reality, etc. In addition, they don't necessarily enable flight schools to take advantage of advancements in teaching and learning techniques that we've learned in the past 25, 30 years. So another inadequacy or issue with the current Part 141 regulations is that they are viewed by many in the industry to be too rigid and too costly to implement, too time-consuming, too expensive to administer, and too expensive to support all of the FAA oversight that's required to not only become a Part 141 school, but also to be an active Part 141 flight school. Moreover, the FAA's certification process for a Part 141 flight school is quite onerous. It can take several months or longer to get certified, and it involves 5 phases: a pre-application phase, a formal application phase, a document compliance phase, a demonstration inspection phase, and a certification phase. And so all of that takes a lot of time, a lot of administration, a lot of metrics, monitoring, etc. So only 23% of private pilots actually get their pilot's license or private pilot's license through a Part 141 program today. As of 2023, 77% of private pilots that earned their license got their license outside of Part 141 through something most likely a Part 61 flight school, maybe through the military as well, but mainly through the Part 61. And you can see the curve here, how Part 61 dominates in terms of the amount of flight training that's provided for private pilots. Now, when you get up to the higher ratings, instrument rating, commercial, CFI, you will see these numbers not be quite as severe or negative for the Part 141 programs. But bottom line is, once a person gets embedded in a Part 61 program, they probably will stick in it because they don't want to spend the additional cost, times, and have the rigidity that's associated with a Part 141 program. So why the low private pilot participation in Part 141 flight training programs? There's several factors. One, the lack of ground and flight training flexibility. When you are in a Part 141 program, there's a syllabus that's approved by the FAA, that's approved for your flight school, and you need to follow it to the T. There's no skipping or going around any steps. It's step A has to be complete and performed at an acceptable level before you go to step B, and so on and so forth. The amount of time and commitment for a flight school to become a Part 141 flight school is long, and in terms of the certification process. So a lot of flight schools out there stay Part 61. The increased required flight school administration and performance metric monitoring. Again, there's a lot of costs associated, overhead costs associated with running a Part 141 flight school. You have to continuously monitor your metrics. You have to continuously be ready to support FAA meetings where they may come and take a review of your performance and what you're doing for programs and your aircraft, etc. So that oversight really gets expensive. And all of that results in substantially higher costs to the student in the end. So the student might be able to get their pilot's license quicker under a Part 141 program. However, the costs are significantly more, and those get passed on to the student. So as a result of all this, that is why we see so many private pilots, at least, getting their private pilot's license under a Part 61 program. Now again, the NFTA did say that for students going after instrument or commercial, CFI, higher ratings, that the participation in Part 141 programs is higher. So what are the next steps for the NFTA meeting schedule? We'll break it down a little bit. The next meeting is April 1st through the 3rd. It's a hybrid, in-person and virtual. The primary meeting subjects will be Part 141 certification process, Part 61 training provider challenges, becoming a Part 141 school, the Part 141 certification management process, and examining authority. And then there'll be a follow-on virtual meeting shortly thereafter, May 6th to the 8th, as a follow-up, and this will be just online type meeting. Then June 10th through the 12th, there'll be a meeting hybrid in Burlington, Massachusetts, where they'll be focused mainly on safety, risk mitigation, reduction of fatal accidents, and quality assurance systems as defined by ACOA. And then July 8th through 10th, there'll be a virtual follow-up meeting of the same topics. And then October 7th through 9th, they'll be in Fort Worth, Texas, another hybrid session. The primary meeting for that, or the primary subjects discussed for that, will be technology, emerging technologies, aircraft, simulation, electronic flight bags, probably virtual reality, probably AI as well. And then they'll also go over various learning and examination methods. And then November 4th through 6th, there'll be that secondary meeting to follow up, basically covering the same topics. And then December 2nd through the 4th will be the final meeting in El Segundo, California. It'll be a hybrid meeting, a closing public meeting, basically. We're going to finalize a collection of all the information gathered over the previous meetings, and then review industry recommendations on how to support the modernization of Part 141. And then that information will get flowed to the FAA, where the FAA can then start to form regulations. Now, my personal suggestions for Part 141 modernization, it's my hope that what will come out of this over the next couple of years is that we'll see a reduction in the Part 141 flight school eligibility requirements, a reduction in the Part 141 certification process, number of phases, for example, and the time to go through those phases. We'll get some relief in terms of providing some types of flexibility in the flight training syllabus and curriculum, so we can deal with bad weather and not set a student back by having to wait for weather to improve before we can go to step 1 to step 2, etc. Reduction in the FAA oversight of flight schools once we are approved as a Part 141 program. An increase in the number of simulator hours that can be counted toward a pilot certificate or rating. So for the private pilot, you can only get 2.5 hours of sim time to count toward those 40 hours for your private pilot. I think there needs to be a little bit more review of that to make it more substantial, maybe 5 to 10 hours, for example. And then I think lastly, to improve the overall aviation professionalism for the GA pilot, to get those accident rates down that I showed on an earlier slide. So that's what's involved in the National Flight Training Alliance and the FAA in regards to modernizing Part 141 flight training. Looks like we have pretty much a full schedule this year in terms of getting in our inputs in terms of the industry to the NFTA organization, and then flowing that next year into the FAA for them to basically come up with new regulations for Part 141 that will hopefully make it easier for Part 61 flight schools to come on board and implement a Part 141 curriculum and program in their flight schools, and hopefully overall reduce costs for the flight student, while most importantly improving safety in our skies. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you get notified on my next video.